Hello to all the debt warriors listening, and welcome back to another episode of Millennial Debt Domination. I'm your host, Katie Fata. For our February podcast, I wanted to talk about love and money. Valentine's Day is this month, and that holiday is centered on love and romance. While it's a great day to spend time with the person you love, you also might want to think about the seriousness of your current relationship. When you decide to enter a relationship, you decide to let yourself become fully involved with someone. This isn't just emotionally, mentally, and physically, it's also financially. Talking about money in a relationship can be uncomfortable, but it's also essential. Once you start getting serious in a relationship, you need to discuss money. This includes any debts you have, including student loans, your credit score, what your budget currently looks like, and what your usual spending habits entail. Today, I'll be interviewing Georgene Applegate. Georgine is a credit counselor here at Navicore Solutions, and she's seen what can happen to a couple's finances if they're never discussed. Georgine and I will not only be discussing how to combine your finances as a couple, but also what happens to your finances if you fall out of love. We'll be discussing different methods of combining finances as a couple, how far ahead couples should plan financially, what happens if one partner is refusing to pay their debts in both their names, if getting divorced can hurt your personal credit, and much more. Now let's get to my interview with Georgene. Hi, Georgene. Thank you for being on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure by all means.
Yeah, so with February, Valentine's Day happened, so I thought we could do a podcast episode on love and money because they do go hand in hand, even though money can be an uncomfortable topic to talk about in a relationship. So how can someone start a conversation with their spouse or significant other about money?
I would start the conversation where stating, like, I'd like to share my money situation and goals with you, and I'd like to learn about yours. I think if you start the conversation by sharing your money situation, it could very well present itself to be a more comfortable way to explore each other's finances and not come across as being judgmental or embarrassing or even interrogating.
So, go ahead.
If you're discussing your own personal goals, such as your goals for income, purchasing a home, retirement, regular savings, getting out of debt, and traveling, and I really would suggest this conversation when you're becoming serious with that significant other person.
Right. Yeah, and that stage is obviously different for everyone. So I think you definitely have to gauge, but it's definitely a topic you have to talk about in a relationship.
Yes, definitely.
So what do you think are some important specific financial topics that need to be discussed with your partner?
I think I would start talking about my own past financial experiences, like the positive things that have happened, the negative things, discuss what I've learned from them, what I've changed to recover from it. Um, Discuss where you're at financially, how you're achieving your goals, any obstacles that you are facing. Discuss your goals with any debt that you may have, along with your savings goals.
Yeah. And do you think you should mention the debts you have, if any, like student loan debt, you should discuss that too?
Most definitely. I think you should. And the reason that I think you should is because you want to put it all out there. You really want to know what you're going into in a relationship, let alone what they can expect. I mean, it's really just being honest, which is a good relationship.
Yeah, especially kind of for younger couples too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So what are different methods couples can use when they decide they want to combine their finances?
There's actually 3 different methods that can be used. The first method is considered the traditional method, and that's where you have joint accounts, you're pooling your money together, you're able to make a budget, pay your bills, build savings, and then from there, I would suggest that you have regular budget meetings to be able to review that you're on track with your goals and be able to make adjustments as needed. You really would have total trust with your significant other with that method. The second method is what's considered a separate method. And this method is where you're more like treating your relationship like your roommates, where I pay this, you pay that, or I contribute this much, you contribute that much. You may each have specific responsibilities for the household bills. This could be done with a joint account or separate accounts. Though here you would want to have regular budget meetings as well, review your own statements and credit reports regularly, and discuss your ongoing changes in your financial goals and achievements. The third way method would be considered the hybrid method. And that approach is where you have a joint account, but you're not placing all of your income into that account or sharing every account. You could have your own accounts, pay certain bills, build your own savings. This method might work for couples that may have different styles, whether they are a couple where one may be more of a saver, the other is more of a spender, or one is thrifty opposed to being more free spirited with money, or even have different financial goals.
So, with the separate method, what are some reasons one partner may not want to combine their money with their future spouse?
Maybe it's trust, bad experiences previously.
Yeah, it could be, it could be different for everyone.
Yeah, spending habits
Mhm.
could be different. Guilt or mishandling their own money, even
Mhm.
where they're feeling like they're immature, like a child, that they're putting things in there and they're not able to manage it on their own.
Yeah, definitely. So if a partner decides they want to keep their finances separate, should the other partner be offended or ask why if their partner doesn't want to combine finances?
No, I don't think you should be offended, but I
Mhm.
think you would want to understand why, so that you could work around it and recover from it.
Right.
Start by creating maybe a new budget, setting goals, have a clear plan and path, have those regular budget meetings again to update how finances are changing and how the goals are being met. Decide what method works best for them and make adjustments as need be. And again, review your statements and your credit reports.
So, when a couple is kind of getting serious and they're deciding to take the next step, how far should a couple plan financially?
The experts state that we should, have savings of 3 to 9 months to cover for our expenses, because we really do need to plan for the different life events that may occur in life, like increasing of family size, health issues, income loss, employment loss, relationships ending, home and auto repairs. You really want to plan until your death. Do you have life insurance, a will, money set aside for retirement? So it's really putting it all together there.
Yeah. And if you're a couple who is maybe looking to buy a house or something like that, you should definitely plan for that, obviously.
Oh, most definitely,
Yeah.
yes.
So, we kind of mentioned budgeting as a couple earlier, but what would some tips you would give for budgeting as a couple?
Really, schedule a budget meeting regularly. Make time to talk, set your goals, make a to-do list like you do for groceries, but continue it out for like holidays, vacations, that home purchase, or home improvements, getting out of debt, uh, preparing for retirement, making adjustments as you have those meetings as needed.
Mhm. Yeah, and even if you're a single person, you should probably reevaluate your budget every month to see what's working and what's not. So this should be the same for couples.
Most definitely.
Mhm. So if one partner is finding they have money issues, at what point should they discuss the issue with the other partner?
As soon as possible. I mean, if you don't discuss the situation, it's really like being financially unfaithful.
Mhm.
As soon as you're aware of an issue, discuss it with your partner to prevent anxiety, depression, could be health issues, disagreements if you prolong the discussion. So I really think as soon as possible.
Yeah, that could definitely cause problems if it's not discussed as soon as possible.
Right.
Yeah. So when should couples discuss what to do with their money if one or both of them passes away?
Now would be a good time,
Mhm.
so that you can designate who you would want to inherit what you have. If you don't create a plan on what to do when that does happen, it can be like leaving your loved one with like a puzzle with no picture to place the pieces together. Or worse, it could cause legal issues and friction for your loved one. So as soon as you possibly can.
Yeah, I think sometimes couples don't necessarily plan for it, when they should, and then it might end up bad if that does happen to one of them.
It can, by all means, yes.
Yeah. So, with love and money, there also comes what happens if you separate and what happens to the finances then. So, can getting divorced hurt your personal credit?
Well, it depends. The divorce itself doesn't impact your credit score. Your
Hmm.
credit report doesn't even state your marital status on it. What would impact it would be if you have joint account that you have with your spouse or significant other and how you proceed to handle the joint accounts after the separation.
Right.
As long as an account is open, you're both legally responsible for it. So check your credit report once you separate, see how the creditor is reporting your debt for clarification, whether it's joint, if it's an individual account, or if one of you are authorized on the account.
Yeah. So yeah, with that being said, the couples do have joint accounts. So if things don't work out and a couple does end up in divorce, what happens if one partner is refusing to pay their debts that are in both of their names?
If the other partner doesn't pay, the creditor may pursue to collect from the other partner. It will affect the credit report if not paid. Collection calls can start for both partners. Judgments can be placed against them. Wage garnishments can happen in some cases. Severe damage to both parties on the credit reports. And a debt is a legal matter. So you really may even want to seek legal counsel, which could be costly as well.
Yeah. So speaking of debts, what happens to any joint debts that a person and their partner might have during a divorce?
A joint account will remain joint until the account is paid off and closed. So if you were transferring it from one to the other, a new account would need to be opened or the creditor would need to agree to remove the other person's name from the account. But as long as it's joint, it's really considered that both parties are responsible for the debt until they make a change there.
So is it kind of split evenly the debt since they're both responsible?
You could say it that way because when you both sign a document, it is a legal document that you're both signing and you're both agreeing to pay. And if one doesn't, the other one will. So, yes, it is.
Okay. So, what are some ways to protect your own assets during a divorce?
Prepare to adjust your lifestyle to the reduced income, modify your budget or even create a new one. Try to cover your expenses with just your income without including alimony or child support. Deal with any joint debt that you may have. Remove any authorized user status on your credit accounts, and stay on top of the payments that your ex-spouse or partner is assuming to pay to really clarify that, it is being paid down, being transferred to just their name.
Do you have any other tips about love and money for the listeners? Maybe anything, about if things don't work out or, anything else you think?
I really just think, working that budget, open communication
Hmm.
will really be your best method of helping you go forward and working out your financial goals.
Yeah, it's definitely an uncomfortable topic to talk about at first in a relationship, even the whole time, but it definitely needs to be discussed.
I agree.
Yeah. So I think that's all the questions I have for you today, Georgine. So thank you for being on the podcast.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
When you first start out as a couple and you're starting to get serious, discuss if you want to even combine your finances. As Georgine said, there are 3 methods to combining your finances: traditional, separate, and hybrid. Don't be offended if your significant other chooses not to combine their finances with you. There are many different reasons as to why this would be. With love sometimes comes hardship, and that's why I thought it was important to talk to Georgine not only about combining your finances as a couple, but also what happens if things don't work out. It's important to protect your assets while you're together and be smart about your finances just in case things don't end up the way you had intended them to. You'll be responsible for any joint debts you have if divorce occurs. Be aware of this when you and your partner are deciding to take on significant debts together. These debts are in both of your names, and even if your ex-partner is refusing to pay their portion of the debt, you're going to still have to pay them. When you open a joint credit card together, you're accepting the responsibility of paying the debt regardless of what your ex can pay. Up next, I'm going to be going into more detail about how you can budget together as a couple. I know Georgine and I discussed budgeting as a couple, but I thought I could share some more specific tips on budgeting as a couple. First, you need to be honest and open about all sources of income, expenses, debts, and assets. Share with each other your individual financial situations because now that you'll be working together as a team, it becomes a joint financial situation. You also want to take the time to understand your partner's thoughts about money and spending habits. It's not uncommon to find that you and your partner have completely different views on money management. For example, one of you can be a saver and the other might tend to overspend. Don't automatically think that this is a deal breaker. Be patient with one another and remember that communication is important. Take some time to develop a mutual plan for spending and saving. My next budgeting tip would be to budget together. Some couples prefer putting all their money into the same account, while others prefer managing their accounts separately. Whatever you decide to do is your preference. However, no matter how you and your partner manage your money, budgeting together with all income and expenses is the best way to truly understand and manage your household finances. Having a budget enables you to establish an effective spending plan so that you and your partner can make the best decisions with your money. If you and your significant other are managing your money separately, devote time each month to sitting down together and share your individual budget. By budgeting together, you can figure out how you can help each other out so you both are staying on track with household finances. The last budgeting tip I have for couples is to discuss short-term and long-term goals. Discuss with your partner what your priorities are as a couple and as individuals. You can plan for those goals in your budget, including categories for savings. Keep in mind that your long-term goals might require building larger sums of money, such as buying a house, starting a family, or taking a vacation. Set a plan for when you want to achieve those goals, and then you can determine how much you will need to save each month. With all that being said, that wraps up another episode of Millennial Debt Domination. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening, and if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review us there. I'll talk to you next time, Millennials, Gen Zers, and everyone else listening. Bye.